Good evening, everybody. This is Lorraine, Alternative Homesteading. I just walked out my front door and two perpetrators drove back to back along the main county road. Just goes to show how your tax dollars are being used to harass innocent people. That's not the purpose of this video. First, I want to welcome all the newcomers to my channel. I really appreciate you're viewing these videos. Some of them can be short, some of them can be long. I document what's going on in my homestead in rural Kentucky, where I moved 3.5 years ago, from New Jersey, where I lived in the same house, 52 Sutton Drive, Manalapan, New Jersey, Northfield Estates, as the original owner for 30 years, at which point, approximately 2012, I noticed a lot of very unusual things starting to happen in my life that otherwise went along fairly well. I came to learn as late as 2017 that what I was experiencing is something called gang stalking. It is the earlier or later version of COINTELPRO, MK Ultra, satanic ritual abuse, trauma-based mind control program that has gotten into the hands of many wrong people, and it has turned into a revenge for hire program for anybody that speaks out to anybody. So let's say you have a business partner and you disagree with that business partner. If that business partner is in the know, they can put you on the hit list, and the hit list is the FBI terrorist watch list. Once you're on the FBI terrorist watch list, your name is given to various groups, and those various groups will sell you off to various other groups. So this is a multi-billion-dollar human trafficking program that nobody wants to talk about. So in two previous videos that are labeled Part 1 and Part 2 of the official Gang Stalking Manual, I'm going to continue on to Part 3, Item 7. It's called Trade-Related Punishment. And I'm going to walk over to my favorite tree stump. And hello, Paws. Paws showed up on the homestead a few months ago and has stayed here. He's a young man. He's not neutered though, but he's cutie. And I want to show you what the stream looks like in back of my house. It's bone dry, even though we've had a lot of rain. So I will assert that since Noble Landworks worked on my property, co-opted with my neighbors to perform some vandalism, that since that point, approximately Memorial Day weekend, the creek water has been siphoned or rerouted or both. So again, to the newcomers, welcome to my channel. I really appreciate your being here. This is for educational and learning purposes. And what I am going to read to you is the truth. This is really happening. It's really difficult to wrap your mind around that so many people could be involved in something so horrendous. But the perpetrators are lied to. They're given a slanderous, defamatory narrative that differs from person to person, community to community. And it's basically to co-opt and get those people to torment you. And most of them are signing NSL letters, National Security Letters, which is basically a gag order. Many of these crimes are being perpetrated against you by private contractors. And some of those private contractors could be retired military, retired law enforcement, and they have security clearances, which permits them to go into certain databases that you and I are not privy to and collect very personal information. So number 7 is trade-related punishment. And I'm just going to hold my phone up so you can look at my fire pit there. This section will give some examples of the ways community-based agents, CBAs, with specific trades or situations in the community can apply deniable punishment to targets. Underground utility crews where the management has been recruited, they will schedule messy, noisy maintenance at the target's home or business if the target runs a business. This can include having the street torn up for extended periods or repeatedly. Funding for unneeded work is available from headquarters. Taxi drivers can delay arriving when called by the target, especially when going to the airport. And that is exactly what happened to me. My mother died. She was murdered. And I had to get to the airport, and the people showed up late. Bus drivers have leeway in nasty weather, for example, to stop one way away from a waiting target and wait there for even 5 minutes, ostensibly to get back on schedule, quote unquote. This can also cause the target to miss connections with the next bus or train. This is especially effective when the target, exposed to bad weather, can see the bus waiting up the street for no apparent reason or not stopping at your bus stop at all. Repair tradespersons can keep, quote, getting it wrong, unquote, necessitating many recalls, be late, be messy, overbill the target, and even damage things which were okay. This is especially effective in the automobile repair trade. I will attest to the fact that I hired a locksmith, I think it was 2019 or 2020, to install a deadbolt, and he actually refused to install the deadbolt. He was a retired military guy, covered in tattoos. He brought his dog with him. And when I showed him what needed to be installed in addition to the deadbolt, he looked at it. He really didn't understand how these little latches worked on the inside of the door. And then he turned to me. He says, well, you have a PhD. You should know how to install it. I just looked at him dumbfounded, like, have you ever heard of a locksmith performing research on a client before they show up? No. He was coached and told something about me that caused him to have this cocky attitude around me and refusing to install the deadbolt. And his reason for not installing it was, I have a little glass on my front door. He said, oh, somebody could just punch a hole through it and reach over and unlock your door. And I said to him, well, if somebody did that, that would be evidence of a break-in, wouldn't it? Medical lab technicians can substitute blood samples or otherwise falsify results, making the target appear to have absolutely no reason for their complaints. Police can frequently pull the target over for frivolous reasons. Yes, that's happened to me in Manalapan, New Jersey. I was pulled over in Englishtown, New Jersey, and the police officer asked me, he says, do you know why I pulled you over? And I said, no, I don't. He says, well, your insurance is about to expire. And now I realize after the fact that about to expire is not expired. This was over a weekend, and it was supposed to expire on Monday. And I had already paid it, but the payment had not posted. But I was pulled over nonetheless. Telephone and cable TV technicians can reroute legitimate calls to the target's number in large numbers, and this will cause the target to get very angry with these totally innocent callers. Store staff, where the target shops frequently, can be instructed to remove items the target is known to need when the target is known to be coming. Store management can stop ordering a target's favorite items. Restaurants and food delivery services can tell the target they are out of an item known to be a favorite of the target. The key to successful punishment by tradespeople is that while the target is very likely to know that they are being punished, these punishment acts must appear to the general public as, quote, life's normal breaks, unquote. Number 8, the target's home. Oh, I'm going to have a lot to say on this one. Sorry, folks. Be prepared. Punishing the target at the target's home is essential for effectiveness of Secret Service operations. If the target were punished in the community, but allowed sanctuary in their home, the creation of a, quote, prison without walls, unquote, would not be complete. One of the very first things the Control Center, CC, will arrange for is homes or apartments adjacent to the target's home to be occupied by both community-based agents and members in the Electronic Operations Manual. Because operations are carried out 24/7 in shifts, homes and apartments which are leased or owned by staff are not used as dwellings. The lease or deed will bear either an entirely false name or the name of a senior staff member whose actual home will be at a different location. Now, I will assert that when I moved in, my neighbor there, you can't see beyond the trees, moved out. She went to go live with her boyfriend and left her house vacant. Right up there, folks. Right up there where that barn is. So nobody's actually living there. But there is a security light that turns on and it shines right into my back window, my rear window. And then I do have a neighbor there. And then, of course, the John and Mary Perky, the very well-known criminals that tore down my gate and threatened workers on my property, threatened me, shot weapons on my property, trespassed. They live down there, next door. They were the ones that were firing weapons earlier today in the little video that I posted where every time I walked outside, he was shooting his gun. Now, it's not unusual for people to target practice here in Kentucky. I mean, almost everybody owns a gun, and many. And it's not unusual for them to be target practicing or whatever. But it is when I walk out the door and it starts up. Noise. Noise must be of a type which the general public deems quote-unquote normal. Remember that the goal is to have the target aware that they're being punished, but not able to convince anyone else that that is the case. Observe local noise curfews, but plenty of punishment can occur outside of noise curfew times. The target must not have an easy cause to involve law enforcement. Some of these examples are as follows. Start a leaf blower. This would time precisely when the target attempts to enjoy their yard, or when EC operators cue the CBA, the community-based agents, that the target is trying to nap. Loud music from a neighboring home. This is an excellent action, and it is common. Time it so that every time the target opens a window, the music starts. The timing makes the point, and that it is intentional punishment. The EC operator can apply music in adjacent apartments with exceptionally powerful bass directed at the target's unit. Frequent squealing of tires near the target's home. In apartments, frequent drilling into scrap of wood or masonry held against the target's wall, floors, or ceiling as if working. Alternately hammering. This is especially effective when cued by EC operators that the target is attempting to nap. Tossing golf or tennis balls against the target's home when the target is known to be trying to fall asleep. This is ideal for cooperating neighbor children. This is child abuse, folks. You co-opt neighbors' children to throw balls against somebody's house. Is this what we want to teach our children? Frequent use of sirens near the target's home. Many emergency service employees have a strong sense of community service and are willing to cooperate in this, or by people posing as Jehovah's Witnesses. Oh yes. Even here in remote rural Kentucky, the EMS workers will turn on their sirens for no obvious reason down in that direction. There was one time, I guess it was a couple of years ago, I was working on my property. I was actually burning leaves, and a fire truck pulls up and hangs out directly opposite, directly adjacent my house on the county road, and just hung out there for no obvious reason, other than the fact that you're allowed to burn trash here in Kentucky, and that's what I was doing. Knocking on the door for frivolous, nonsensical, wrong address reasons, especially effective when the target is in bed or having a meal. Trash. Leave trash in the target's yard. Oh, they do this often. Frequently, but CC staff will assist in scheduling this so that the target can't quite have a case on which law enforcement will act. Well, I'll tell you folks, I have collected so much evidence over the years, and law enforcement does zippo nothing. They don't even write their reports correctly. This one is really disgusting. Terrifying the target's pet. This requires entry while the target is away from home for an extended period and must be scheduled by CC. The Electronics Corp operators can render a dog or cat passive for safe entry for the community-based agents by an electromagnetic beam. Did you hear that, folks? They will use an electromagnetic beam to render a dog or cat passive. Now, I had a cat named Buddha. He was young, and he was so sweet. But every time I opened the door to the nonprofit building, he would run out. It was like a game, and I'd have to chase him around and bring him back. And I guarantee they did this to him many, many times, because after my mother passed away and I had to fly to New York, when I came back, Buddha died. I guarantee while I was away for those 3 days, the criminals entered my nonprofit building. Buddha probably ran out several times, and they totaled him. Wounding or killing the target's pet, rarely used, but scheduled when the target has acted in a way so as to deserve special punishment. Like divulging the name of a criminally acting secret agent. Well, I'm going to say something here. I've had a lot of my pets murdered, and I will speak out against all the criminals against me, like, how about the former chief of police, Michael Fountain of Manalapan Police Department? He targets his own police officers. And Lieutenant Thomas Mantle, who thinks it's okay to label me a domestic terrorist while I'm walking down on my property. Or stating that I appear to be paranoid by presenting evidence that my house was broken into. I will call you out every day of the week because you're bully badge abusers, you're criminals. I will call you out every day of the week because not only did you target me, but you've targeted other people in the community. One woman who was a divorced single mom, she's dead now, and she lived down the block. And in the lawsuit against you and the police department in the town by your own police officer. He stated in his case that the chief of police carried around information on his officers, dirt, to be used against them in the future. Well, I will assert that he did the same thing to divorced single women in the community. Manalapan, New Jersey, 07726, where I lived for 30 years as the original owner in my house. And you already stole my pet. I moved here knowing nobody, and 4 cats were stolen within 3 days of my being here. Your punishment? You need to be beheaded. You need to have your badges removed. You should be shamed in public for the crimes that you commit against innocent people for profit. You want to steal my pets? You want to blind my cat? You want to murder my mother? You all should be hung in a public place for everybody to see who you are. How dare you harm innocent animals for profit, for punishment against me, a law-abiding citizen? You barked up the wrong tree because I ain't ever shutting up. And I hope everybody knows that the Manalapan Police Department has been sued many times. And all of those cases are won. Like the ACLU that sued the Manalapan Police Department because one of your bully badge abusers pulled over an African-American teenager. Discriminatory. And guess what? That bully badge abuser was promoted to a fucking detective. And he's a piece of crap. And all you cops that go along to get along, you're just as bad. Go turn in your badges. You're supposed to protect the Constitution of the United States, not a thin blue line. The thin blue line is a cult. The Constitution of the state of Kentucky and New Jersey and every other state constitution and Constitution of the United States and the Bill of Rights. If you don't want to uphold that, then turn in your badges. You're nothing better than Nazi war criminals. And this will be exposed. Everybody's speaking out now. There are thousands and thousands of videos of these abusers abusing innocent people. And the lawsuits, the multi-million-dollar lawsuits that are being won. So you want to give me punishment? For what? For speaking the truth? If you wanted to grow up to be a criminal, go do it. But take off your goddamn badge. You're supposed to be fighting crime, not participating in crime. Shame on you. Where the target owns substantial land, noxious activities can be arranged and built next to the property. In one case, a dump, an auto racetrack, and a prison were built adjacent to a target who owned farmland in an area of natural beauty. While this is rare, it does illustrate commitment to delivering punishment to those deserving it. Cooperating police department can visibly watch the target's home, possibly parked in front of the target's home when the target returns repeatedly. Oh, I've seen that happen. I've even seen it happen here. Police officers who refuse to take a complaint of harassment and sabotage the target, who they label disturbed. They're really not allowed to make a diagnosis, as only medical doctors can do. But they may get a price for their unlawfulness afterwards. Oh, yes. So Thomas Mantle at the Manalapan Police Department, did you get a raise? Guess what? He got promoted. He's now a captain. Now he's a captain of crime. Before he was just a lieutenant of crime. And now he's a captain of crime. And the former chief of police has since retired. Police follow orders. For example, the Stay Behind, secret military-led organization created by the CIA after World War II in NATO countries. They give orders in secrecy to police, media, legal system, and judges, thus being above parliaments and governments, as demonstrated, for example, in Norway, when in 1957 the chief of quote-unquote Stay Behind, Sven Alstad, gave the security code of Norway to M16 British intelligence in the UK, acting on his own. We have to trust our allies, quote-unquote, he said. Today, the security code of Norway is kept in Wales. Originally, Stay Behind was created with good intentions to fight communism. Today, it's out of control, and a new, much bigger Stay Behind 2 is active in Norway. The Stay Behind logo resembles the NATO logo, NATO. It resembles the NATO logo. In Italy, Stay Behind was called GLADIO 2 and dealt with terrorism secretly in Western Europe. It was responsible, for example, for the kidnapping and killing of Prime Minister Aldo Moro in 1978, while the blame was pinned on the Red Brigade. Today, enemies are communist and NATO is the opposition. On November 22, 1990, the European Union forbade Operation Gladio. But although Norway follows most EU decisions, this one is omitted. Italy and Belgium had terror actions by Stay Behind. And when the organizations ceased to exist, the terror operations also ceased to exist. But in Norway, Stay Behind is called E14. What was its role in Norway's terrorism actions, if any? Some have tried to get control of Norwegian Stay Behind armies already for years. Who are the back men giving orders to those officially in charge? By the late chief medical officer of northern Finland and targeted individual, Dr. Rauni-Leena Luukanen Kilde. Number 9, other tactics. Now this was included by Dr. Kilde. There are other tactics which are not strictly part of the categories discussed so far. Important. Community-based agents, CBAs, are strictly forbidden from adding anyone to the list of targets. Target selection is done by senior control center staff or higher levels. Punishment of people who side with and help the target, like friends, family members, and citizens who do not place a high value on community that sometimes help the targets. In these very specific cases, the CC is authorized punishment in the form of individual acts against them is appropriate. I'll tell you what they did to my mom. First, they blinded her cat. I have evidence and proof that they were in her house. They gave her a seizure in her sleep. When she ended up at the hospital during COVID, they treated her as having had COVID when she tested negative. They gave her remdesivir, put her on a ventilator, and she had a heart attack, became brain dead. She was perfectly healthy when she entered the hospital. And within 9 days, she was dead. But my mother was a supporter. She knew what was going on. She witnessed it. My mother hired a private investigator. She also hired a private security firm that swept my house. They wouldn't even speak in my house. They would not speak to me in my house, only outside. And I'm not going to say everything that they said to me. But they knew this was going on. They knew it was happening. But yes, my mother was a supporter. And she's dead. The system can arrange for those target sympathizers to be found guilty of crimes or liable for civil actions, for example. This is important for the maintenance of the system. Well, I'll tell you folks, my mother worked for a law firm. There's no way she could have done that. My mother paid her bills on time. She was nice to everybody. People were shocked when she died. Absolutely shocked. People cried. Her bosses cried. This is organized crime, folks. People need to wake up and listen. This can happen to anybody. Oh, and interesting. My motion sensor light just turned on all the way in the back there. I wonder if some criminal is there. I did have some cars pass by recently. Target bank accounts can be disrupted in ways which do not give the target cause to involve law enforcement. For example, target protection can be changed to a youth account, or an overdraft protection feature can be disabled, or simply steal money from the account. It is called action of, quote, international banking ring, unquote, and usually at first the sums are $50 to $100, which are taken when the target pays small bills. Money is never transferred to the journal subscription or membership in a certain club-like opposition to government surveillance. Money simply, quote-unquote, disappears from the bank with the help of cooperating employers. I have experienced this myself several times. Bank accounts are hacked for the payment, and a new bill arrives for the already paid bill by the target, and the receipt of payment is stolen. I've had food deliveries stolen by local neighbors here. Federal Express is involved in intentionally delivering food late or delivering it to my neighbors and never uploading the tracking information. They like to do that with Misfits Market and Vitacost. So my perpetrator neighbors get free stuff that I've paid for. But fortunately, because I can prove that I didn't receive it, I'm refunded. But why should these businesses suffer these losses because of these criminals? There's also cooperation from military intelligence. Stay behind, NATO, and foreign intelligence agencies also against their own population. This is the so-called secret silent war, all going on in secrecy. And just give me a moment to turn the page. Okay, now what the next page is, and I'll read this quickly because we're on like almost 35 minutes here, folks. And I'm going to get my little chickies in, and it's starting to get darker. We had rain here today. This is Appendix 1, Keywords and Phrases from the Organized Gang Stalking Manual. Keywords to Chapter 18, the major operational components of organization. You've got the community-based agent, CBA, Electronic Corps, EC, Electronics Operations Manual Electromagnetic Beam, the Control Center, CC, the On-Site Supervisor, OSS, these are field operations people, psychologists and psychiatrists, advanced computer communication systems and computer programs, elements of the Secret Service gang stalking operation. Surveillance is the foundation of all operations. Operations are, quote unquote, active surveillance type. Passive surveillance, watching the target covertly to obtain information. Community-based agents, every act of punishment is deniable. Well, I beg to differ. These people are in denial themselves. Advanced technology enables heavy punishment when the target is in their home silently through walls. This is through-the-wall radar, pulse, microwave, radio frequencies to target specific parts of the individual's body. I'll give you a quick example. When I wake every day, my feet, and I take the temperature before I go to sleep. Usually after the shower, the temperature of my feet are like 82 degrees, which is warm. When I wake up, after being at rest, asleep, the temperature of my feet is 96 degrees. I have to run into the shower and pour cold water on my feet. And what this has done, it has caused my toenails to deform, become dry. It has created like a fungus on my otherwise normally healthy feet because I am being heated from the inside out. Electronic Corp members get specialized electronic punishment training, advanced electronic surveillance, and this manual. The field operations people, psychologists are the key to finding ways to maximize feelings of stress and hopelessness in the target and degrading the target's health. This is why no one should become a licensed psychiatrist or a licensed psychologist. When you become licensed, you are paying into this torture. You are paying into their agenda. And their agenda has their interests. This is disgusting. CBAs are given cell phone numbers for reporting targets' actions and movements to the local control center. Oh, they're going to have a doozy with this one, huh? It's going to be so much fun for me tonight when I'm sleeping. The CC always has the target's position monitored. The Electronic Corps has through-the-wall surveillance and punishment equipment. They absolutely do. And my friend, Helena Chorba, who was a civil engineer and performed a crazy amount of research. That's online, and anybody who is interested in seeing some of that research, I can provide it to you. Send me an email to alternativehomesteading@gmail.com. Helena has passed away. And perhaps I'll do a video on that too in the future. Computer programs predict exactly when and where the target will be as they move through the community. OSS has special means of receiving instant silent instructions for the center. Intercepts are where CBAs appear to just coincidentally cross paths on foot or vehicle with a target. The ultimate vehicle intercept is a staged accident. Did you hear that, folks? A staged accident. This is an excellent means of punishment where the target has committed serious offense, specifically against secret services by revealing their criminality to the public. Well, I'm going to tell you, folks, revealing your criminality to the public? Too bad, you shouldn't be doing it. Criminals belong in prison. I'm under surveillance, why? So that you can asset strip me and perform punishment? That sounds a little psychologically depraved to me. It sounds very sadistic when criminals are wanting to inflict punishment on innocent people. The lunatics really are running the asylum. Sabotage lets the target know they are totally helpless to stop harassment. Thefts must be authorized by the local control center. Sabotage the target's reputation is a special operations category done by spreading rumors. Well, you know, folks, here, let me just turn the page here. Done by spreading rumors consisting mainly of lies. The goal is to keep negative information about the target flowing through the community. The organization has many top psychologists and psychiatrists on permanent staff at headquarters. Their job is to design a campaign to destroy the target's reputation. Really? What do you think about that, folks? Do you ever want to visit a psychiatrist ever again? Monitoring newspapers for letters to the editor regarding these activities. Monitoring talk show appearances by targets. Repair tradespeople can damage items like their cars of targets or overbill the targets. Oh, this has happened to me so many times. Police can frequently pull the target over for frivolous reasons. Punishing the target at the target's home is essential and effective Secret Service operations to create a prison without walls. Operations are carried out 24/7 in shifts. The control center will arrange for homes or apartments adjacent to the target's home to be occupied by both community-based agents and members of the Electronics Corps. Okay, this is just a repeat of what we discussed in number 8. But now Appendix 2, these are key terms from Rich in 2011. And the equivalencies with terms presented in Dr. Kilde's Manual for Gang Stalking. I'm just going to read this one paragraph, and then I'm going to end here, because we're going in the 45-minute range. Terrorism. The U.S. and its allies will terrorize the civilian population to achieve political objectives. The DoD, which is the Department of Defense, stated, some IW activities such as terrorism and transnational crime violate international law. U.S. law and national policy prohibit U.S. military forces or other government agencies, which is OGA, other government agencies, from engaging in or supporting such activities. However, since our adversaries employ terrorism and transnational criminal activities against the interests of the United States and its partners, these activities are included. Did I just read that? I did. I just read that. As examples of the range of operations and activities that can be conducted as part of information warfare. Okay, that's what IW is, folks. IW stands for information warfare. And I'm going to read that paragraph one more time, and then I'm going to end, because that sentence alone is terrifying to think. Terrorism. The U.S. and its allies will terrorize the civilian population to achieve political objectives. The Department of Defense stated some information warfare activities such as terrorism and transnational crime, they violate the international law. But U.S. law and national policy prohibit U.S. military forces or other government agencies from engaging in and supporting such activities. However, since our adversaries employ terrorism and transnational criminal activities against the interests of the U.S. and its partners, these activities are included as the examples of the range of operations and activities that can be conducted as part of information warfare. Do you hear that, folks? Well, it's getting dark here. The sun's gone down. You can see the skies here, very cloudy. We had rain today. And my chickies, they're waiting by the front door of their coop. It is now it's a little bit close to 8. So I'm going to be signing off. This is Lorraine Alternative Homesteading, and I hope everybody's having a wonderful Saturday night. Talk to you soon.